Hello YouTube, Jonathan here, and for this video we are going to wrap up our series on Axis and Allies Europe Original or Europe Classic, Europe 1941, whatever you want to call it. This is the second version of Axis and Allies widely released after Classic, so there are a number of things that are present in this game that were not present in the other games. I think changes that have been made. One of which is unit costs are very different. Something that I did not mention in the other videos, but is nonetheless true. Tanks attack at a 3 and defend at 2 in this game. Transports can defend. They can be taken as casualties. They defend at 1. The strait here in Turkey is closed off and so forth. Germany goes first, then the Soviet Union, then England, and then the United States. The Allies have a huge economic advantage in this game. Germany has the same amount of production as the United States, and then the Allies in addition, and that's 40 production, the Allies in addition have another 30 for England and another 24 for the Soviet Union. The flip side of that is that Germany is armed to the teeth and does have a good chance of taking out the entire British Navy, and the American Navy, the little fleet over here, aside from this little fleet here and this little Russian fleet up there, a sub and a transport. The Allies are likely to have no navy left after Germany's first turn. Germany is in a position with massive forces to go after Russia. I recommend a second turn attack because you can bring more of your forces to bear more quickly, then you can have a more concentrated assault that way. But we talked about Germany, we talked about the Soviet Union. For this video, we are going to combine England and the United States. We're going to do that because their first turns, neither of them are really going to have much to work with. And they're both going to be in a similar position, having a few land forces, some planes, no navy to speak of, and it's just going to take them both a little bit of time to build up. So what both of these countries need to consider, they need to take a look at where are Germany's planes after Germany's first turn, and where are all of those subs, and where is that transport. Now remember that subs cannot attack airplanes, and so if Germany did not build any surface fleet, we can send our fighters over and take out that transport for free, basically. Assuming we don't have any destroyers left, otherwise we could go after some of those subs. So we do want to be aware, especially if Germany did build some navy, especially if there are transports involved. They might be thinking about doing a Sea Lion. Maybe they're going to use them over against Leningrad, but it'd be odd for them to start building navy. So that is something that definitely should attract your attention if they do that. We do want to make sure that we are safe from Sea Lion, so if they do start building transports, we need to build appropriate forces on England. The US isn't really going to have to worry about that. But England should always be aware of what Germany's Navy surface fleet is doing and where those transports are. Now, assuming that is not an issue, England is going to want to build up its force as quickly as possible. And that's going to mean a couple things, one of which is destroyers to help deal with this sub situation, so that the subs don't get their sneak attack if they decide to attack, and England can hunt down those subs and combine its air force with its destroyers to help deal with them. Now, if you're in a safe position to do so, I do like building a carrier, because carriers defend at 3 and you can instantly move those 2 fighters over to it. That's a very potent force that the German Navy will have to deal with. You just need to make sure that you're protected from those sneak attacks and you don't lose your carrier in the very first round of combat because of that. Transports do take hits, so you can also plop some transports down. I typically would recommend focusing on the surface fleet the first turn, maybe 2 depending on what's going on, and then building transports, just because, yes, transports can be used as fodder, but they aren't going to defend very well if Germany decides to send a bunch of its planes after you. So you want to make sure that your navy is as strong as it possibly can be. and then you can start, if the situation allows for it, like if you cleared out the German subs and you can spare a couple units with attack value. You cannot do this with transports, but you can do it with your other sea units. You can get some of these convoys back, or you can leave it to the United States that has to pass more in this direction anyway, to go ahead and get those. For England, they're kind of going out of their way, so you don't want that to be part of your strategy. You only go after those if you can spare the boats. Your primary concern for both of these countries is going to be keeping Russia strong. And that could mean, especially early in game, maybe feeding them a fighter per turn or something along those lines, because your navy is not going to be strong enough, just to help them to try and hold some sort of line along here. Where exactly that is going to depend on a lot of factors, but sending them a fighter per turn for the first couple turns can help with that. You as England go right after Russia, so if they counterattack somewhere, you can move your planes there, no problem, before Germany gets a chance to do anything. Now, for America over here, it's going to take longer for them to get fighters over there, so I would recommend that they focus strictly on Navy, and then they try and move in their fleet to combine with the British, if the British aren't able to get a good Navy fast enough. Typically in most versions of Axis and Allies, and this one is no different, I like, once America and England are both strong enough, for them to focus on different fronts, for England to focus up here, for the US to focus down here, but that is entirely dependent on the situation. If it makes more sense for the fleets to be together, or if it makes more sense for them both to be able to land in the same spot because Germany is particularly weak, or they're not defending well, then that's fine. But it could also make sense to threaten more spaces at once, especially if the U.S. can maybe get this factory down here while England is pressing in. That's not a good situation for Germany to be in. The U.S., well, neither power really can get troops up through here because Turkey blocks that. So if you want to get units into southern Russia, there's a long way for you to go. This would not really be, I would not recommend this as a focus to get troops here. This may be as a focus to keep the oil out of Germany's hands, but not to help Russia. The focus for helping Russia has got to be either up north over here, or eventually maybe through the Baltic Sea into Leningrad and threatening Germany's front up this way. So, but none of those things are going to happen the first turn, or probably the second turn, unless Germany really is not paying attention. You're looking at a third turn at the earliest for any major offensive operations, just because both of these countries have to completely rebuild their fleets. And at the end of Germany's first turn, it's going to have some navy still out here, and it has a potent air force. So that's not going to happen right away. Like the actual war, the Soviet Union is going to want you to be doing something offensive as quickly as possible, but that just is not going to be feasible. And so anything you can send to help them, and fighters are really the only thing to get there, while you build up, that is something you want to do as these two countries. Eventually, if the game goes on long enough, you will be able to crush Germany, simply because of your economic advantage. Now, I say that, the caveat being that the Allies still control all of their countries. Of course, if Russia falls, or if there's an Operation Sea Lion, if one of the Allies gets knocked out and Germany suddenly gets that additional production, then all bets are off. But assuming that the Allies are all still in the war, say 5, 6, 7 turns in, that should be more than enough time for their economic advantage to stalemate the Germans where they're at, and then slowly start pushing them in. It's just surviving that long that can be the trick. So those are my thoughts on this version of Axis and Allies. I hope you all enjoyed this kind of a retro, kind of an old school strategy series. I did just get a copy of, I'm Yeah, sorry, I can't talk. I'm going to call it Classic Pacific, and look to put a couple of those videos up here in the near future. I also want to thank everyone who has recently given me ideas for new videos coming up. I have been giving those some thought, and there are several things I want to swing back around to, as well as anyone who has given me ideas in the past that I unfortunately just haven't gotten to yet. I haven't completely forgotten about you, but these things take a little bit of time, and there are some other videos that I wanted to make first. So keep those ideas coming. I really appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.